Does the message that this movement, the anti-lockdown movement, is trying to reflect in a way, is it reflected in, does the movement itself, is it reflected in the actions of the people at the protest or the people that are there? Is it reflective,
What do you
or is
mean?
it, so a lot of them are kind of like fighting for their own, it is my right to not have to
Yeah.
be at home all the time.
Yeah.
But is that kind of reflected in what they're doing while they're there? Because
I
it
know.
feels like it doesn't feel like, it could seem like they're not. And so
No.
that's why I wanted to ask you, is that kind of being exuded there, or is that just a thing that is just not really correlating together?
They're busting out, you mean, of the quarantine. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, like they're trying to just like bust out of quarantine. Is it just like a sign of rebellion, or is it a sign of
Yeah.
trying to like push their own freedom?
It's a sign of rebellion, I think. I mean, what we've noticed in terms of the demographics of, the pro-gun group, is that they tend to be, lower middle class white. They're the Trump voters who have all these grievances, and the government is a stand-in for their grievances. Their grievances are against a host, as you saw from the last presidency. Their grievances against immigrants and other racial groups, and the globalized system. But the government is always a handy stand-in, right? Because the government is going to stand up for the rights of minorities and sends the welfare checks. So, it is interesting that that's where their rage is so often directed, is towards government. And on that note, I was not surprised when they finally overran the Capitol building in
Hmm.
Washington. They've been pointing in that direction for years.
Years,
I
yeah.
mean, the, this, and you're right. You point out that one school of argument, and it's not unwarranted, is that the Second Amendment was written to give people the power, the ability to rebel. Okay, that's all fine and good, but we have to radically understand. We have to understand a totally different way in 2021 as we did in 1776. What that means and what that would look like. But you know, yeah, I mean, it's become a handy excuse that this is an expression of my freedom to be an anarchist. In a way, and they don't see it that way, of course, but it's been pointed out by many that they undermine rule of law. I've been arguing that forever. They are undermining rule of law, and they don't see that. They think they're all about security and law and order, and they're just about quite the opposite. When
Hmm.
you see guys with guns walking the street, you don't feel safer. Okay, you feel like
Yeah.
some shit is going down.
Mm.
So